Good day, good day, good day, business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and corporations, and welcome to the Black Business Network. My name is Grant McGaugh, CEO of Five Star BDM. That stands for Brand Development Masters. And I am your business moderator for this session on the Black Business Network. The Black Business Network is a 24-hour business network showcasing Black businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders worldwide. We have speakers from North Carolina, London, Singapore, Africa, Japan, and cities all over the United States. The Black Business Network is a global community sharing its business knowledge to empower, inspire, and educate businesses about business. And today I will be your keynote speaker, and I want to talk to you about brand, B-R-A-N-D, brand and brand development. It is so important, especially if you are a small business owner. I want to work with you to unleash your visibility of value. All of you have value, but is it visible? That is the main point of working with me at Five Star BDM. Become more visible and to showcase your value by building a five-star brand that people will follow. And that is not just a tagline. That is the road, the journey that you will be on as you engage with me as a client. And a lot of my clients have become very successful through the framework that I have provided for them, which is so important. And I want to share with you a statistic, a very kind of moving statistic that a lot of people don't know when they start looking at the visibility challenge. Now, how visible truly is your brand? And 81% of small business owners struggle to effectively communicate their unique worth. 81%. That's 8 out of 10 small businesses and even big businesses struggle to really showcase their value. And in today's world, because it shifted so dramatically through the technological platforms that have lifted some businesses above others, and then some of them are just not on board and they're doing it the old way. They're doing it in a legacy way. So the five-star approach is we want to illuminate your value so brightly that your customers can't look away. You have the opportunity now with all the digital platforms that are available, but are you utilizing it? That is the first question. You must do an assessment. Where do you fit in your landscape? What is your brand identity according to the clients or the audience or the customers that you're looking to add value to? Do they know you exist? Where do you play? And if you are not utilizing worldwide platforms to increase your visibility, just like right now, I am on a worldwide platform talking about my business to a worldwide audience. So my visibility is exponential as opposed to me just talking to one person or just hanging a sign outside of my business. And then whoever potentially could be walking by might become aware of my business. Or we can go more old school, like, yeah, I would do some form of advertisement in the yellow pages or the white pages, right? Some people remember that. But as Dr. Kelly reminded us earlier on this platform, if the average age of individuals on this planet Earth right now are in their late 20s, how are they communicating? What is the go-to methodology to communicate and find things that they need for as resources for the next step in their lives? What are they doing? Are they thumbing through the yellow pages? Of course not, right? Are they looking at television and radio? I don't think so. Not as much as you would think. Search and social are key. Search and social. Now remember, some of you remember how much it would cost to run an ad on television or run an ad on radio. And you'd have to have a pretty penny to get that done, to get maybe a 30-second spot that you would run an ad at. And you don't know what program it was going to come on and what audience is truly tuning in. You'd have to do a lot of research to make sure, hey, I'm going to spend a lot of money to get my ad in front of these people. You got to make sure those people are actually can utilize your services, right? Well, that is changed. That you can be very, very precise in how you're doing your advertisement and how you're getting the word out and how you're becoming more visible to your target audience, which is so, so important. Now, one of the things that I always advise my clients is that the purpose of working with me, what are you trying to accomplish? What is the ultimate goal that you're trying to accomplish? And all this goes hand in hand. If you look me up, Grant McGaugh, 5 Star BDM, you're going to get a lot about personal branding. You're going to get a lot about business development because I do both. But they work hand in hand. There's a process and a methodology. Personal branding is top of funnel and it feeds into business development. So most people, they kind of get it backward. Oh, I'm just going to do some personal branding. There's a purpose for personal branding. And personal branding meaning what is the face of your business or the face of your career? You know, typically for me, it's definitely going to be myself. What is the purpose of personal branding? Is business development. That is the purpose. That is the vehicle that I utilize for business development. So understanding that and that, okay, I know what I need to do or why I need to do it. And I have to establish this brand identity because it becomes my messaging vehicle to my audience to understand what my worth is. What is my value that I'm bringing to the table? So for myself, you're going to find out that I'm a 25-year veteran in business development. I've worked with some of the largest companies in the world when it comes to communications, like Avaya, Lucent, Cisco, CenturyLink, Verizon, AT&T, all these different digital platforms and technology providers, whether it's cybersecurity, all these kinds of things I have done. So I've worked with Fortune 500 companies all the way down to small business owners for 5 to 10 employees. It doesn't matter because they all have to utilize some type of digital platform, some kind of technology, because that is a must, not a want. It is a need. You have to have a technology engine to promote your business in today's world. And I help people do that, right? I've been doing that for a long time. And as I've done that, I started to discover that people really like the way that I branded myself, because in my business, in business development, we understand that the true audience that I have is people. It's people. How do you engage with the people who need your product and your service? So you need to understand your audience, your people, far greater than you even understand your product and service. You need to understand them to communicate with them and to communicate your value, right? So you want to go and be irresistible when people begin to engage with your brand. You go from invisible, right? Invisible to irresistible, right? When they get a little wind of what you do and why you do it, why that's important and why it's important to them and what they want to accomplish. So you got to first get their attention. And when you get their attention, you have to keep their attention, right? And you do that because now you're making your value visible. This is what this talk is all about. You become visible to them. And as they become visible to them, it becomes very clear of the direction that you can take them. There's a couple of key components that you will need in any endeavor that you take, especially if you are a business owner. And I utilize a framework called BRAVE, because you've got to be brave in order to accomplish the goal that you're setting out to become. If you want to become a six-figure business, a seven-figure business, an eight-figure business, you've got to be brave depending on where you are now. So if you're starting from zero, then most people, as they climb that mountain, you have to start at the beginning. So everyone has started at zero, and then they traverse to that four-figure, five-figure, six-figure, seven-figure, eight-figure opportunities that they have and grow their business to those plateaus. You'll find that they had a couple things in common. Number one, they had a guide. Because if you go to any mountain and think about this, and I talk to my clients like this all the time, you've already had a certain amount of experience. And I want you to meet me at the foot of the mountain of the goal that you want to accomplish. And I want you to bring with you everything that you feel you're going to need to get to that goal of getting to the top of that mountain or that goal that you have. And you will meet me at the foot of the mountain. So my client says, yes, okay. We're going to give my client a name. We're going to call my client Jeff. I say, Jeff, I need you to come with me. You want to work with me? All right, we're going to do an assessment of what you have. But before we do that, I need you to gather everything that you have and bring it with you to the foot of the mountain. So Jeff says, well, I'm not really sure what I need. I said, think of this. Who were you? What were you doing 5 years ago? Maybe potentially 10 years ago before you wanted to try this trek. And what do you do accomplish as experiences and gather as experiences along the way that have helped you to get to where you're at? And Jeff's like, oh, well, I could do that. Yeah, I've gotten some tools. I've gotten some experience. I've gotten some skills. I've gotten some academic, awareness and some acclaim. And I've gotten, I said, oh, great. Bring all that with you. So Jeff, he brings everything he has, and he scales, he drives up to, where I'm located, and he actually walks up to the foot of the mountain. And then that's where he sits down, and he sees me there. And I had this nice campfire built out, a nice flame. And I say, sit down, Jeff, and tell me the story of how you got here. Because it's so important for me to understand my client's experience, what they've been doing for the last 5 to 10 years to get them to this point. And they've got a lot of different things that they brought with them. They brought this and they brought that. And they're like, okay, Jeff, that's great. I'm glad you told me that, because I now have to take you through my framework, because you're going to have to be brave in order to get to the top of this mountain. I will not, misguide you in any way, shape, or form. It's difficult to get to the top of that mountain. And it's very difficult if you don't have a methodology in order to get there. Do you agree with me, Jeff? Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So we're going to look at your brand assessment. I need to look at your capabilities. Can you actually get to the top of that mountain? Are you physically fit, emotionally together? Do you have the mental state? Do you have the spiritual aptitude to get there? I need to understand that, because I have to be responsible and tell you up front, like, you're not ready for this. You're not ready for this, right? Because if I send you out there to go to the top of this mountain, you're going to fail. I know you're going to fail, and you're going to blame me for that. You should have told me that. All right. And that is my responsibility to tell you that through a brand assessment. I need to understand your capabilities, right? So that's the first thing in the BRAVE framework. That's the brand assessment. And then we're going to do some research. We've got to start to understand what you want to accomplish and how you stack up in relationship to others who've actually ascended to that level. Where do you stack up? I mean, you need to understand that. So we do a skills gap analysis through research. You're telling me you want to penetrate this market. You want to dominate this market. You want to become an 8-figure business within this particular market that you're in. And right now, you're either at a 4, a 5, or 6, or 7, depending on what that is, in business today. And I need to then give you a skills gap analysis as a part of my process to understand, again, this is what it's going to take for you to ascend to this level. Do you understand? Like, okay, let's take a look at that. And it's a breakdown because we're going to look at 3 or 4 other individuals or 3 or 4 other companies. We're going to look at the 5 most common attributes that they have ascended, that they have utilized as key differentiators to get them to the level that you want to ascend to. So if you're climbing a mountain, you want to know about the 5 greatest persons that climbed that mountain and how they got there and how they were similar or dissimilar to you. Okay, because that's going to help you to do some self-assessment for yourself. That this person had these skills, they had this opportunity, they had these resources. And you got to see, well, do I have that? I have this. You got to know where you're at, because you're not going to have everything they have, and they don't have everything that you have. But you have to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and those threats. So you're going to have to do a SWOT analysis at that time. That's part of your research and your strategy. You really, truly got to understand your capabilities and what it takes to ascend to that mountain. And as a coach, just like if you were on a football team, the coach has got to tell you that's why they do practice. That's why they have spring training. That's why they have, actual football camp. That's just in the football analogy, because you got to get you ready for the season. They got to get you ready. Like, hey, this is going to be 18 games of brutal, one-on-one contact that happens in an NFL game. You're going to have collisions every single week for the next 18 weeks. So if your goal was to win the Super Bowl, you're going to be able to withstand that kind of activity for the next 3 or 4 months. And if you're not physically able, mentally able, spiritually able, it's going to show up, and you're going to bring the team down. We need to understand that. We need for you to understand that fully before I send you up that mountain. And then you're like, okay, Grant, I get it. So that helps us to begin to craft a blueprint strategy for you, understanding your personalized blueprint that's going to get you to your desired state, right? And once we agree upon that, we go to the next level, that 3rd level. And what does that look like? That's asset creation in that brand brave framework, right? We talked about brand assessment. We talked about research. That's the B and the R. What is the A? Asset creation. Asset creation. Most people, when they think about brand development, they really are at this 3rd level. They think about the aesthetics, what things look like, the visual appeal. And that's where they get things wrong. But before you can even get there, you need to understand those 2 other steps I just talked about, right? The brand assessment and your research and your strategy. Because if you haven't done that, the aesthetics in the asset creation world will be meaningless, because you'll find out, wow, I didn't need a hammer, I needed a nail, or whatever it might have been. You begin to understand the true tool sets that you're going to need in order to ascend that mountain. And I'm going to assess that for you. I'm going to take a look and say, okay, you've got these tools, but you don't need those. You need these. You need to acquire these. So you need to acquire the assets necessary to scale the mountain. And what does that look like? And I'm going to help you with that, right? I'm going to help you take a look at what the true assets that are necessary, whether you need more education, do you need more certification, do you need more experience, do you need more relationships, which is extremely important, because that is an asset. People don't realize that. Relationships are one of the biggest assets that you're going to need. So as you begin to scale up that mountain and you get to certain experiences that you were or were not prepared for, if you can't pull out a relationship, someone has already scaled the mountain. I can call that person up. I can email that person. I can connect to that person. I can read that person's story. I can say, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so was at this level. That's an asset that you're going to need, right? So are some of the digital platforms you're going to need. Those are assets that you're going to need. You're going to need to be able to create certain content. Those are some of the assets you're going to need because you have to communicate your value. So important to understand where you sit in relation to these things that I am talking about. And then we get to that part where the V. This is where you become, up to this point, you're invisible to your target audience, which is also part of that asset. You've been invisible. You're doing this in a word that people aren't seeing you. This is the background work, the brand assessment, the research, the strategy, the accumulation of assets that you need. Now you're now becoming visible in the market. You've now made your stake. I'm now sending you up the mountain. You're ready to scale. You're ready to take on this challenge. And I vetted you. You vetted yourself. You're ready to move forward. It's part of that V world. You need to be vetted. So I can't send you up there knowing good full and well you're not going to be able to accomplish your goal. And you need to know where you step in relationship to everything we talked about, because the only thing you're going to really take up that mountain is the blueprint. That's the map. You got to have a map, right? To know how to go, like to know when to go left or go right, to go east, west, north, south. That's what the blueprint is all about. One person told me this is so important. He said, you have a cell phone, right? I said, yeah, I got a cell phone. And that cell phone potentially could reach millions of people with cell phones or other forms of communication, correct? Am I wrong? He's like, yeah, you're right. He said, well, dial me up. I said, well, I don't have your phone number. Exactly. Meaning you have the potential to dial up millions of people, but if you don't know their exact phone number, you will not reach them. So you've got to be able to dial in and hone in very precisely to your audience in order to do these things in the right order. Because all of us got 0 through 9 on their phone. But unless you have the exact number of that exact person in the exact order, you won't get them on the other side. And true branding and messaging and marketing is about communication. And communication is two-way. So if you're only talking to yourself, you're not really communicating. It's only one way, right? And this is a common mistake that I see in business owners almost daily. Is that, oh, you know what? I can just blast away. I'm going to post away. I'm going to send all this information out. And it's just scattered all over the place. And it's not dialed in to that target audience who truly needs your product or your service because it solves a problem for them. You need to understand the problem that you solve for other people. And you got to make sure that those other people that have that problem are aware of you, right? That you're visible to them, that they can dial you up as well as you can dial them up. So that's two-way. And that's the whole point of becoming visible, that you create dialogue, that you create communication, and that you have a two-way street that now has become very, very apparent. And the value that you have is very, very visible to that audience. Once you do that, you've got interaction that's taking place constantly, coming in and out. That's what when you see a busy businessman, business person, what is that? He's got a phone, he's on his tablet, he's on a computer, he's driving to appointments, he's busy, he's interacting with his target audience, with the people that he needs to serve. He's serving those people. So that becomes, you're visible at that point. You're at that V world. The vision of value is very, very important. And then it comes down to, very important, is execution. You've got to be able to execute, right? Part of that BRAVE framework. Now, you've got the brand assessment. You've got the research and strategy. You've got the asset creation. You've got the visibility of value. And now you've got execution. You've got to be able to execute. You've got to be able to evaluate that execution. You've got to energize yourself. You've got to evolve and change, and you've got to excel. All those things are important. It's almost like an athlete. When you think about an athlete, these are the things that they're doing when you see them on the field. They're executing. They're evaluating with their coaching staff. They're energized. They're evolving and changing their game plan on the fly, real time, in order to win the game. They excel at it, right? And it's always, always, always something on this other side of the ball. In any game or endeavor or business that you want to undertake, there's a resistance on the other side of the ball. And this is another key mistake that a lot of people make, is they underestimate the resistance that they're going to come across. And this is very, very important, because you might start out, let's just say a round number, with 100. You might have 100 ideas, let's just say, that you have to accomplish your goal. And the other side of that ball, there's 120 detractors for those 100 ideas that you didn't anticipate because you didn't do the research, right? In your competition, this is what they're going to throw at you. Anybody that follows sports and things like that, this is what they're doing all the time. They have to game plan. They have to understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of their competition that they're going to come across. And competition is not always just another business. It's a lot of external factors. There's a lot of status quo, right? Even within the target audience, you're like, you know what? I'm not willing to change. I don't want to do this. I want to stay where I'm at. So you haven't given them enough value for them to actually like, hey, I do need to change, and here's why. And that's part of your goal and understanding of brand messaging, to let them know that change or the unwillingness to change is really not an option. And I came across this statement the other day that is so important, that a lot of people are operating in a blockbuster mindset in a Netflix-enabled world. Understand what I'm saying? You're operating with a blockbuster mindset in a Netflix-enabled world. Have you adapted to today's competition and how things are operating? And are you doing business the same way you did it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Fundamentals really don't change, but methodologies do. And it's very, very important to understand how to get your value in front of the target audience in order to create commerce. So that is what I do. So you said 5-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters. What are we doing here? We're actually creating business development opportunities to get you visible in front of the target audience, so they can then partake in the transformation and the change that you are now offering them to take. This is going to propel you up the mountain, right? Top of the mountain is the 8-figure. That's your goal. Middle mountain, 7-figure. Then 6, 5, and 4. As you traverse the mountain, it gets harder and harder to achieve those goals, especially if you're not prepared and you don't have the right guidance, you don't have the right methodology, and you don't have the right will. The will to withstand the resistance that you're going to encounter on your way up the mountain. Anybody who's done any kind of, like, say, mountain climb, some people understand that, you're going up Mount Everest. As you're going higher and higher, it's getting colder and colder. The wind is getting stronger and stronger. And your will to traverse continuously up that mountain is going to be tested time and time again. Most people, because they will tell, this is a statistic, 50% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years because they got trapped on the mountain. and they had to come back down that mountain. And as they come back down that mountain, I want you to do a little bit more research, part of your BRAVE framework. I want you to ask them what was the problems they encountered that brought them back down the mountain. You need to understand this because you will be faced with similar circumstances. And if you understand, like, ooh, this is what another person did, or several different people did, and this brought them back down the mountain, if I do that, I'm probably going to come back down the mountain as well, right? Financial resources, cash flow problems, lack of good messaging, alignment with my target audience. I mean, you can go on and on and on by why, a business failed over time as they were trying to ascend to that higher level. What did that look like? Sometimes it's adaptation. You didn't evolve. You didn't change, or the speed to market. I couldn't adjust quick enough. I did not see that coming at all. Think about all the taxi cab drivers or taxi cab owners and the businesses or corporations that own all these taxi cabs. Did anybody see that Uber was going to overtake that market by storm? Probably not. Very hard to discern. But at some point, you got to take some chips off the table and get on board on something else, because in a technological world, things can change rapidly. And if you don't pay attention to these things, you could be coming back down the mountain as well, telling your story to someone else. Is like, wow, as I got further and further up there, it got harder and harder and harder to maintain the level that I was at. So gather information from other people or other organizations that had to come back down the mountain so that you understand what you're going to come against. One of the biggest things that I've seen, that people give up too quickly. And if you give up too quickly, that is a sure sign that you weren't ready to go up in the mountain in the first place, and you did not get good guidance. So I'm going to leave you with this. If you got value out of what I'm talking about and you want to get more value for where you're at and what you want to do, visit 5 Star BDM. That's the number 5 Star, STAR BDM, B for brand, D for development, infomasters.com. I encourage you to go to my website. You're going to see a library of information there, a library of other people with career, business development, technology innovation. And then you're going to see the opportunity to engage with me when we begin your journey to the top of your mountain. And we begin with that with a free assessment. Let's first understand where you're at and where you want to get there. And then you have to ask yourself that very important question. Am I ready now to go to the top of that mountain? And if so, I've got the guide, Grant McGaugh. I've got the process. I've got 5 Star BDM and the BRAVE framework. And I have the will to succeed. So I want to thank you for listening to me today, and continue to tune in to the Black Business Network, because it's so important for all of us to have opportunities to build new opportunities for yourselves and for people that need you the most, especially from an entrepreneurial perspective. And that is part of the Black Business Expo's mission. And we're here to raise funds for high school seniors going to college or K through 12 entrepreneurs. And this Expo is a fundraiser for our students. So you may go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. You can donate to the scholarship fund, or you can use the Cash App. That's right there on the screen below. That's $BBXUSA. Our goal is to give laptops and up to $5,000 to 10 students. And students, you can register online at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. Every dollar counts. So we want to remind you, donate to the scholarship fund. And we'd like to thank our Black Business Expo USA sponsors for September 2024. And they include NC100, Suede Soul, Carolina, Virginia Minority Supplier Development Council, Step Management, Margie McLean Foundation Incorporated, Genius is Common, RTV.network, Executive Women's Success Institute, The Quality Coaching Company, Superwoman Business Services, Creative Force Studios, Lee Entertainment, Black Business Olympics, Artistic App Design, Black Business Expo USA, Genius is Common, and I'll see you on the other side.